After tens, if not hundreds of job applications, all you've got to show for it are a pile of rejections. In this video, I'm going to share with you the exact blueprint that you can follow straight after watching to turn things around, covering everything from the best resources to networking tips. And don't worry, I've been in your shoes myself. Making these changes was what enabled me to go from 0 spring weeks to multiple internship offers across investment banking, private equity, and consulting. Since then, I've gone on to share this advice to thousands of students across top universities in the UK, and today I want to share it with you. You'll soon realize that the most successful job applicants aren't necessarily lucky, nor are they necessarily the most skilled. I've seen plenty of really smart students fail at the very first hurdle. Instead, they're the ones who follow principles like the ones I'm about to show you. So straight off the bat, the first thing that I want you to do is reflect. And the reason why is that if you are unsuccessful with your applications this year, there's got to be a reason for that, and you need to first identify it. It could be the quality of your CV, it could be your cover letters, it could be your responses to those interview questions, the higher views and the numerical tests. The simplest way to figure it out is to look at what stage of the application you're getting rejected, because that's normally a good indicator that you might be lacking something in that particular stage of the process. So for example, if you're getting to in-person interviews, it probably means that your CV, your cover letter, and your numerical or online tests were all probably good enough. So perhaps where you fell short might have been with researching your technicals or in the quality of your responses to your interviewers. On the other hand, if you're getting rejected pretty early on, maybe in the first or second stage, then it's quite likely that the problem with your application is on paper. Once you've figured out where you went wrong, that tells you exactly where you need to be focusing your energy. Speaking of energy, that now brings me to something that literally requires 0 extra effort and immediately puts you ahead of most other applicants. It's embarrassingly simple advice, and yet so many people to this day still don't follow it. And that is to apply earlier. Every year, the competition for spots in spring weeks and internships seems to get even more fierce. And so a super easy way of quite literally getting ahead of the competition is just to apply to these positions as soon as they open up. And that's because lots of firms operate on what is called a rolling basis. Basically, they look at applications in batches and gradually start to fill out their vacancies. So the later you apply, the fewer spots they probably will have left, and therefore the worse your chances. And so the same CV that might land you an offer in August might lead to a rejection in November, just because there are fewer spots left. There's this really great website called the Trackr that a lot of people are starting to use, and effectively it's just a massive spreadsheet of positions that are opening up. But the thing with applying early is that it only gets your CV seen. It doesn't necessarily get you remembered. What does get you remembered is something that most students actually approach completely wrong. I remember when I worked in finance and I saw this firsthand every single day. And that brings me on to networking. So you've got to try and stack the odds as much in your favor as possible. And that means doing things like going to events at your university, attending insight days, and LinkedIn outreach. But before you start firing off those LinkedIn DMs, let me tell you a story about myself. I once woke up at 4:30 a.m. for a networking call when I was doing my consulting interviews. And that's because the person who was mentoring me only had a tiny window before their day started, and so I had to make it work. And that's the sort of mentality I think you need to have, because ultimately these people are doing you a favor. Remember that the people that you're probably reaching out to probably have incredibly busy days ahead of them, and also are probably receiving quite a few messages from lots of different students. And yet I see students all the time message and reach out to people on LinkedIn, acting as if it's an equal power dynamic when it really isn't. So if you're a student reaching out to someone in the industry, you really need to keep that in mind at all times. And on that note, let me tell you how to network properly. The first thing is you need to be memorable. So do your research into the person that you're reaching out to. See what deals they've done, look at their background, basically just show them or make it clear to them that you've actually taken the time to look into them personally. And when you reach out, mention something specific, like a certain deal that they might have worked on, or maybe something ideally that you have in common. And most importantly, don't ask questions for things that you could have found out the answers to online, because it shows that you've basically done no research and are relying upon the person you're reaching out to do all the heavy lifting for you. The second thing is make life easy for them. So keep your interactions short, sweet, and to the point. Ideally, you'd also do the admin and logistics for them as well. So share your general availability or make yourself available whenever they are free. And so if they suggest a time and your calendar's busy because you've got a social event on, either try and move it or accept that you might have to miss it. So I like to think that those first two tips when it comes to networking are relatively common sense, but it's actually the next networking mistake that I probably see more often than any other, and it's the one that will get you instantly ignored. And that is to be transactional. If you reach out to me and I've never spoken to you before and you immediately ask me for a referral for the company that I work at, I'm not going to help you. So when you reach out or meet the people that you're trying to network with, remember that they are still actual human beings. So take an interest in their lives, their hobbies, interests, what they might be doing at work, rather than seeing them solely as a means of getting a referral. If you do that, they're just going to feel used and it's not going to build good long-term rapport for you. And finally, I'm going to give you one more bonus tip on who to actually reach out to in the first place. So if you want to learn more about the actual day-to-day of the job or the application process, then it's the analysts and associates that you should be reaching out to, because that's ultimately the position that you'll be joining into. But if you're looking for someone to actually help you break into the industry, more directly, then reach out to more senior individuals, because they actually have the sway when it comes to sort of recruiting or that sort of decision making. All of that being said, networking is meaningless if your application falls apart at the very first stage of the process. And it's funny because I see even really hardworking, smart students trip up here. And so my advice when it comes to the application itself is always just to try and nail the basics, because it's more than half the battle. So things like having a strong CV, tailored cover letters, and pre-prepared answers or stories for potential online hire view questions is pretty much the bare minimum that you need to get through to those in-person interview stages. Spring weeks and internships and even grad applications, they're all ultimately a numbers game. You'd be lucky to get a 10% success rate when it comes to application to offer. And the people who get anywhere close to that sort of success rate are the ones who spent a significant amount of time developing and honing those solid fundamentals, rather than the people who throw together a CV and cover letter as quick as they possibly can and then submit to try get over with the process. Unfortunately, it doesn't just stop there. Having a great CV and a cover letter is just a starting point, but it's not really going to help you all that much when you get into a room with a recruiter and you find out, or you quickly realize that you're well out of your depth. So let's talk about that. I'm going to be so real here. Once upon a time, this was me. When I first started university, I thought that the name of my university and my A-level grades were going to be enough just in and of themselves to carry me to a spring week offer. So what I basically did was try and blag my way through things like the cover letter and the video interviews using just the bits and pieces of information that I already knew at the time, without actually really even knowing what investment banking was or things like how evaluation was derived. My strategy was just to throw around as many buzzwords as possible and hope that some of them stuck. I found that a lot of people, especially first years, tend to do this thing. And whether you're blagging your hire view or your cover letter or something else in the process, normally recruiters will be able to tell straight away. Regardless of whether you're a first year or a third year, I'd really recommend that you start learning the technicals of the job, just because it will give you so much more confidence when you are doing things like your cover letter and your video interviews, because you actually know what you're talking about. And that sort of confidence, that genuine confidence, really cannot be mimicked. In terms of my favorite resources for technical prep, I've actually created an entirely separate video that's already on my channel that you can go and check out. I'll put the link to that in the description, so go and check that out after watching the rest of this video. And there are loads of other videos on my channel covering things like how to write the CV and the cover letter properly. So subscribe to the channel if you think you'd benefit from that sort of content. And actually, I've been thinking about maybe running some workshops where I walk through completely for free with you guys how to create a financial model from scratch. So if you think that might be something that you're interested in, just let me know in the comment section down below. I can get started on creating like a sign up link or something. Finally, everything I've just told you lies on the assumption that you're applying to the same places as everyone else is. But what if I told you that in and of itself was a problem? And this takes me on to my final bit of advice, which is to expand your opportunity set. And I think this is one that, again, lots of people miss entirely, because it's so easy to just focus on the big name players in the big name industries. Everyone wants to be a trader or an investment banking analyst at the likes of Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, right? But the reality is that there are a goldmine of opportunities in other adjacent sectors as well, whether that's small asset managers, private equity firms, or fintech businesses. A lot of the time, these smaller firms will have no formal recruiting process. And because they don't have such a recruiting process, they're normally not going to get flooded by applicants. And so if you're able to put together a really bespoke, tailored application for one of these places, your chances of landing an internship offer there massively skyrocket compared to your run-of-the-mill Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Spring Week summer internships. So what you can do is reach out to people who work at these firms on LinkedIn, again, more senior individuals as I mentioned, to try and see if there are any opportunities, or at the very least go and organize a coffee chat where you can explore those sorts of opportunities or discussions further. And actually, this is where the networking tips that I shared with you earlier really come to play, because since there is no online portal, the way to landing an offer is through the people at the company. And sure, you can argue that these companies might not necessarily have the fanciest or most recognizable brand names, but at your stage of your career, what's more important is that you actually develop the skill sets that you require to become effective on the job. That's what matters the most. And there you go, that's the exact blueprint that I recommend you follow. It's exactly what I did to turn my story around, and it's something that I've seen hundreds of students use successfully ever since. So if you want to put this all into action, I'll list all of the key links in the description below. And as I mentioned, if you are interested in that financial modeling workshop, just let me know in the comment section below, and then I might eventually drop a link to a sign-up form as a pinned comment. I'll be making more videos on how to navigate the complex world of finance, so if that sounds interesting, be sure to follow so you don't miss the next video. See you soon, guys.